Welcome back to Fireside Giants, an Empire Sports Media production. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today we're going to be discussing how the Giants' offensive scheme could change with Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka taking over. Of course, this is far different than Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator for the past couple of years. Going to be a lot different than even the Ben McAdoo offense or even the Pat Shurmur offense. I think this is going to be a much different offense, different looking Giants team offensively than we've seen in years past. And I'm excited to discuss that, but make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this video and get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of Mike Kafka, that hiring, what do you think of Brian Daboll, and everything in between. But without further ado, let's discuss this, right? Because Mike Kafka was a great hiring, in my opinion. He was my top candidate for the offensive coordinator position because I became enamored with the idea of combining a bright mind from the Chiefs with a bright mind from the Bills. Those two offenses are electric. I mean, they're arguably the two best offenses in the NFL, at least passing the football. Those are probably the two best passing attacks in the league, and you're taking the offensive coordinator from the Bills, the architect of that phenomenal high-scoring offense that's finished top 3 in points per game each of the past 3 seasons. I mean, you're taking that offensive coordinator, and then you're also taking the quarterbacks coach from the Chiefs, who was in line to become their offensive coordinator. Actually, Eric Bieniemy in 2019-2020 offseason, he was interviewing for head coaching jobs. Had he gotten one, the Chiefs were expected to promote Mike Kafka to offensive coordinator. So this is a really smart guy right here. This is not a huge leap for him. The Chiefs were prepared to make him the OC 2 years ago. So this is not something that should be like, oh, he's too inexperienced. No, he's got the experience. If Andy Reid was going to trust him with the keys to his kingdom, I think the Giants can absolutely trust Mike Kafka with their offense going forward. So I think that's great. And also, he is regarded as a rising star in the coaching staffs around the league. Kafka has a lot of hype generated around him. And, you know, he kind of reminds me in a way of, we've seen certain quarterback coaches, right, have success with teams. You think Sean McVay had success as a QB coach, then ultimately you know who he is now. He's in the Super Bowl, second Super Bowl appearance, and he's a head coach, and he's arguably the best in the league. Zach Taylor used to be a quarterback's coach. Matt LaFleur used to be working on the offensive side of the ball as well as one of those lower-level assistants. We've seen this time and time again where these QB coaches just kind of have a really great progression in their career, and they're considered these rising stars once they get to that OC position, and then they just dominate and become a head coach. So I could realistically see that with Mike Kafka, and, you know, more important for him than anything is the fact that he learned from Andy Reid. And that's what I want to get into a little bit right now with how the offensive scheme might change in 2022. Andy Reid is the best red zone play caller ever, maybe? I don't know. But the Chiefs are phenomenal in the red zone. Andy Reid is always just super creative. Sometimes he does get a little bit too cute. That is a problem for him. Sometimes he's a little too cute and they do screw up. But for the most part, Andy Reid is a phenomenal red zone play caller. And I think Mike Kafka can bring some of those play calls from the red zone over in Kansas City over to the Giants, who had, you know, one of the worst red zone offenses in the NFL. The Giants did finish 31st in total offense in 2021. That's something that needs to be drastically improved upon, and I think the Giants clearly understand that. They hired Brian Daboll as their head coach. They hired Kafka as their offensive coordinator. They're taking names from the top offenses in the league and trying to get pieces of those schemes put together to make a good offense over here in New York. So I think that's going to be really exciting, is the fact that we've seen a really bad Giants red zone offense in recent years, but I think that's going to change with Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll, and I think that Kafka is going to bring a lot of what Andy Reid taught him over here into the red zone efficiency. So that's huge. And then there's a whole lot more. There are some questions for Mike Kafka, though. Will he call plays? So that's something that we don't really have an answer on just yet. I don't think the Giants even have an answer on that. I think they're going to have to work on it through preseason, training camp, and whatever, and see who ultimately calls the plays in the regular season. But right now, I would love to hear in the comment section down below, who do you think should call plays, Daboll or Kafka? Which one? Because Brian Daboll obviously was a play caller for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, that offense was insane. We just saw the Chiefs and the Bills go toe-to-toe in that overtime game, and of course, yeah, the Chiefs came out on top narrowly with the coin flip in overtime, but the Bills' offense was electric in that game, and the play calling was phenomenal. It was really the defense of the Bills that kind of came up a little bit short there. However, the play calling from Brian Daboll all season long was tremendous. All season long, this year, last year, he is one of the best play callers from the offensive side of the ball in the NFL, in my opinion. But Joe Schoen, new general manager of the Giants, made it clear he doesn't really want the head coach to call plays. He'd rather the head coach oversee everything going on the field and just kind of guide the offensive coordinator while the offensive coordinator calls the plays. So will Daboll call the plays or will Kafka? Because Kafka's never called plays before. He's been a quarterback's coach. Bieniemy and Andy Reid handled the play calling over in Kansas City. Kafka kind of just helped with the offense in general. The passing game coordinator, he installed a lot of the passing concepts into that playbook, which is another thing we're going to have to get into because that's really exciting and that could change the Giants offense a whole lot. But who will call the plays? I personally think Daboll is going to call the plays because he has the experience doing it. But if Kafka calls the plays, that's kind of asking for a boom or bust situation in my opinion, because that can go really, really well where you just have this bright, young offensive genius to step in and call great plays, or maybe he is too inexperienced and maybe he isn't ready to call the plays. Personally, I think Daboll will call the plays, but I would trust in Kafka to do it. If Andy Reid was going to trust in Kafka to become the next offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, then I do think that he could absolutely step in and call the plays for the New York Giants. But I do want to touch on the fact that he's not only a quarterback's coach, he's also the passing game coordinator, which is really important because it adds a whole level of responsibility to him, which goes past the quarterback position, right? The passing game coordinator also deals with tight ends, running backs, wide receivers. There's a whole lot of responsibility that comes along with that position. So for Mike Kafka, installing concepts into the playbook, passing concepts into the playbook is really great because we've seen some phenomenal passing concepts in the Chiefs playbook in recent years. I mean, they've always had such great passing concepts. You always see Tyreek Hill just running wide open downfield. Travis Kelce's wide open, touchdown here, touchdown there. We all know that Patrick Mahomes does a whole lot of that, but he's set up in a great position with an awesome coaching staff that had some great passing concepts in it for Patrick Mahomes to really make use of, and I think that's going to be great. Daniel Jones, likely to be the starter in 2022. I think that he's going to have a lot more ability to use his deep accuracy, right? Because he is one of the best deep ball passers in the NFL in terms of efficiency and accuracy, and now I think with Mike Kafka installing some of these vertical passing concepts, I think we're going to see a much different version of Daniel Jones that sees him throw the ball downfield at a much higher rate. Because he's always been good at it. He's always been accurate. He just rarely throws the ball downfield. But I think going forward, you got the Bills and you got the Chiefs offenses kind of getting merged together here. The Chiefs are a little bit more West Coast, but they definitely have some great shot plays in there that set up their speedsters downfield for touchdowns. And of course, the Bills, they're kind of... One of the things I really like about the Bills offense is that there's a lot of off-script freedom for the quarterback. Josh Allen's always just running around like a wild animal. Like he's just a madman out there. He's scrambling. He's making plays with his legs. He's getting out of the pocket, extending plays, and keeping the drive alive. We see that kind of stuff all the time with both of these offenses, the Bills and the Chiefs. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, but we never really saw that with Daniel Jones. Once he got out of the pocket, play was kind of dead. Also, he usually didn't have a pocket to stand in because our offensive line was so bad. Praying that Joe Schoen is able to fix that in this year's draft. But I think we're going to see a whole lot more freedom and creativity out of Daniel Jones this season. I think he's going to be given a lot of leeway and a lot of ability to call plays at the line of scrimmage, to make audibles, and then, of course, after the snap, he's allowed to make a lot more adjustments than he used to be able to. I think we're going to see a lot of scrambles from Daniel Jones and a lot of throws from outside of the pocket, which is going to be pretty great. I think that's really the way to unlock him. If you go back and you look at the film that Daniel Jones put on in college at Duke, he was out of the pocket quite a bit, and he made a lot of plays with his legs. Now, we've seen him make plays with his legs under Jason Garrett, but not enough, right? We all wanted to see more read options as long as he can protect his body, but even outside of that, we just want to see him get out of the pocket more frequently, scramble more. He never really scrambles, Daniel Jones. He's got the ability to. He's so fast, but he just doesn't really choose to do so that often. He kind of just goes through his progressions and then kind of throws the ball. But now he's going to have the ability to run around. I think there's more freedom in this offense, more autonomy for the quarterback because we're talking about a Chiefs and Bills hybrid offense. Those are the two offenses in the NFL that probably give the most autonomy to their quarterbacks out of all of them. So I think that's really exciting. And the last thing that I really want to hit on that I'm excited for is the creative usage of Kadarius Toney. We're going to see a whole lot of that. We're going to see a lot of Kadarius Toney this upcoming season, I think. I think this could be his breakout year. I'm thrilled to watch how Mike Kafka is able to utilize Kadarius Toney because there's a really great chance that Toney, no, he's not exactly like Tyreek Hill. Nobody is. Tyreek Hill is his own player. But in terms of the playing style and the way that they use Tyreek Hill, they could start to use Kadarius Toney in that same fashion. Get him downfield, use his speed to his advantage, set him up with a lot of wide receiver screens. He barely even took wide receiver screens, but also Tyreek Hill goes out there and runs routes. Kadarius Toney can run routes. I personally believe that he can run routes. I think that he's a much better route runner than people give him credit for. So now I think that we're going to see a lot more utilization of Kadarius Toney's skill set, getting him the ball in space where he can make plays after the catch, and then also setting him up with efficient play calls in the passing game with the coordination from Mike Kafka and allowing Kadarius Toney's next ability to really be unlocked. I'm so excited for that, but of course, that's really all I have for you today. Talking about how the offensive scheme might change. I think I really hit on some main points there. Red zone efficiency should really increase. A lot more vertical passing concepts. Of course, we're going to see a lot more of Daniel Jones. I think he's going to be the big factor, the X factor in this offense. Having a lot more creativity, freedom, off-script plays, and then, of course, Kadarius Toney. I'm so thrilled to see what Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll are able to do with Kadarius Toney. I think that he is an ultra-talented player. He just was poorly utilized in his rookie season. I think Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, Freddie Kitchens, they just didn't know how to use Kadarius Toney, but now I really truly believe we've got the people in place that know how to use a player like Kadarius Toney, know how to use his talents to find success, and that's what we're going to see in 2022. So I'm thrilled, can't wait to watch that. I think Kadarius Toney is going to have a big year under Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll. But without further ado, thank you for watching Fireside Giants. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. If you're new, subscribe. If you're not new, ring the bell so you don't miss any of the videos. You'll get notified. And of course, as I mentioned, comment down in the comment section below. We want to hear from you. We want to engage with you and have discussions and conversations about our beloved New York Giants. So hop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think of Mike Kafka, Kadarius Toney, Brian Daboll. Spill it all in the comment section down below. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode of Fireside Giants. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.